All right, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel and today's live stream as we'll be talking all things related to the 2022 fantasy football season. Again, the football season, yes, it is a little bit away. We're only in the month of May, and we've got many months until we get there. But I just wanted to go ahead, hop on by, talk fantasy, see if you guys had any questions. Obviously, conduct some best ball drafts via Underdog Fantasy. For those of you who are not familiar, it's the best place to go ahead and do one of those. Of course, can conduct yourself multiple drafts via the NFL or, a variety of other sports, but we'll talk about that later. Either way, that is the gist of today's schedule. Of course, a little bit of the schedule has been released as of today. We understand what week 1 is going to look like for the 2022 season. You guys know full well how much importance I put on strength of schedule on a weekly basis, depending on how well teams play against, respective quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends on a weekly basis. So that certainly has given me some more research to do this offseason as we approach the 2022 season. But all is well. Hope you guys are doing well. I see many of you in the chat. Sam, Raul, Christopher, Nitro, David. How you doing, man? I hope you all are doing well. All right. So anyway, that's the gist. A couple questions already fired into the chat. If you have anything, regardless of topic, shoot it in my direction. I'll be sure to try to answer it to the best of my ability and give you guys some perspective on the matter. Sam already with the question says, why aren't there any $5 drafts on Underdog? That is eventually going to come. Right now, they're pretty much just going ahead with their giant prize pool Omega draft, which is a $25 buy-in, but eventually we'll get to the position where there's either a $5 or $10 one in the upcoming future. But for right now, that is what they've capped it to. But they always do it. They'll put out a big contest, and then once they get to like August, September, that's when the smaller contest buy-ins are. You can go ahead and, of course, by that time, get yourself going and mock drafting a lot in order to kind of get yourself comfortable with ADPs and where you want to go ahead and strategize based on where you're selecting in a given draft. Richard Garcia just fired a question, said, how have you been? I've been good. I got no complaints. The offseason has been exciting for the NFL, and it's only making it that much more exciting as we count down the days as we approach the 2022 season. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and throw up the chat on screen just so you guys know who I'm referencing to as to the questions. But yeah, no, I've been doing well. All is well over here. I'm just preparing. Again, every day that you guys don't see me, I'm making the channel that much better. Whether it's graphics, whether it's statistics, whether it's content, whether it's a variety of things. Every day I'm striving towards improving the channel. Of course, thank you to your guys' support, letting me do this as a full-time gig. So yeah, I've been doing well. Thank you very much for asking. Brandon says, how high would you rank Ja'Marr Chase among wide receivers this season? Currently, I have him as my number 3 wide receiver, only behind Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson. Based on the shakeup at the wide receiver position that we saw this offseason, specifically Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams going to different teams, and the question mark that currently looms around the status of Deebo Samuel going into 2022, I think it's relatively fair to go ahead and have him as the number 3 overall wide receiver going into 2022. Now, I understand there are going to be some hesitations. A lot of people are going to point to that Week 17 contest in which he had 51 fantasy points against the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're going to say, Andrew, a lot of his fantasy point totals, a lot of his overall, fantasy point per game averages, are kind of skewed from that performance. I understand, but that's just the nature of the beast. That's how fantasy works. We can't take away Jonathan Taylor's 50-point performance. Just because it's one doesn't mean he can't do it again. These players they're electric, and of course they have the potential to do that. So it is what it is. But that's where I feel pretty comfortable with. Again, if you feel more comfortable with another receiver, it could vary. Everybody's kind of got their own opinion in regards to whether or not Joe Burrow and that Cincinnati Bengals offense is going to go ahead and excel once again in 22, or perhaps take a step back, a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover like we've seen from other teams in the past. Justin had a question, says, my Pats play 3 of their first 4 games on the road to start the season. Shaking my head. I mean, to be honest, Justin, I'm not even worried about that. I feel like the Patriots are well coached enough to where you don't even have to worry about starting the season on the road. It's when you get into December and they have the ability to come back home, play in Foxborough in those weather games and control and dictate by running the ball effectively. I feel like as long as they're, I mean, we don't know the full schedule as to everything that's panned out unless someone's got a link for me. I really do think that there's a possibility that late in the season, there's going to be a stretch of games where, 4 out of 5, they're at home and they'll be able to pick up some wins there and do pretty well for themselves. So I wouldn't worry about I wouldn't worry too much about the early season, because we all know the way that, of course, the NFL goes is who can stay the healthiest as we get through the season and who can catch fire late in December and take that and transition that into the January play in the playoffs. All right, let's see here. Another question. Sam says, it seems like all the other drafts are available. It seems like all other drafts available are 3, 5, 10, 25. Yeah. Just weird how 5 isn't available. I mean, it could change, Sam. I'm not 100% certain at this moment. Very easily could change, but we'll see. Currently available, yes, those are. But I think as we approach the season, when we get closer, I mean, I could, of course, send over some questions to Underdog and ask them on behalf of you, no problem, and see if I can get you any answers regarding that. But yeah, other than that, should be good to go. Z-Lugs, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Says, thoughts on Jerry Jeudy becoming an honorary Raider. I don't know exactly what the deal is. I was just informed earlier today, obviously, like many of us were, via social media, that he was arrested in relation to something. Whatever it is, we're just going to wait and see what is to come of it. And that's all we can do. Otherwise, Jerry Jeudy was a guy that we anticipated because of the fact that he was associated with a Russell Wilson offense and the idea that we all thought, there's a new coaching staff, there's a new regime in Denver. So, of course, we would have to assume Nathaniel Hackett, former offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, going over there, was going to let Russ cook, was going to let him throw the ball. Let's not forget, guys, I mean, Russell Wilson in the last 5 seasons, I mean, just going back to 2017, 2016, he's been an incredible quarterback. This is a guy that, like, 5 out of the last 6 seasons, 30-plus passing touchdowns. He has been able to do a lot with a little. His offensive line's been one of the worst. He's, been sacked more than just about anybody in the past 5 seasons. Not only that, it's an offense in Seattle that really didn't want to pass the ball that much. Hopefully, everything kind of gets settled out. But, if Jerry Jeudy's not there, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, here we go. On to the next, on to the next guy, next man up. Ron T says, who would you pick pick up in a dynasty? Laviska Shenault, KJ Osborne, Josh Palmer, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Terrace Marshall, or KJ Hamler. Okay. If I'm just straight up just picking up a player free of charge, there's no trade or anything like that is going to impede me. I don't have to spend any fab, anything. Straight up, I don't want to touch Laviska Shenault. Laviska Shenault is most likely going to be erased from that offense because Christian Kirk, as we've seen in Arizona, played about 75 to 70, he's like 75+% of the offensive snaps from the slot position. That is predominantly where Laviska Shenault was used. Laviska is probably going to get moved out of there, so we'll see Christian Kirk dominate there, so I'm not really interested there. KJ Osborne, of course, will eventually be the number 2 wide receiver of this offense once Adam Thielen's gone, but for right now, not a bad option. Josh Palmer, similar situation. Once Keenan Allen has kind of gotten himself to a point where he's getting to his older days, Josh Palmer could end up being that starting slot receiver. We've certainly seen him be great. But if I'm looking for a player in a dynasty that I'm just trying to maybe take a wild guess on and hope they can hit, it's going to be MVS. Marquez Valdes-Scantling going to the Chiefs this offseason, obviously through free agency. The absence of Tyreek Hill is certainly going to play a factor. The question is, have we seen what Marquez Valdes-Scantling is capable of? Have we seen his ceiling? And if we have, and what he's put forth in Green Bay is his potential ceiling, then unfortunately we're in a situation where he might not be the best overall player there. But I wouldn't mind taking the risk just in case. There's a reason why they brought in him and Juju Smith-Schuster. They believe they need wide receiver help. Obviously, we're all aware of that. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind that. He's a deep threat, and if Mahomes is going to let it rip, could be a decent option. But yeah, as of right now, if I'm just looking for like a 2022 plug and hope he pans out, it would be MVS. Outside of that, it's KJ Osborne and Josh Palmer that are my next highest over there. Sam Olson says Travis Etienne or Breece Hall. If we're just talking about 2022, like a redraft league, I would say Travis Etienne by a pretty far distance, in my opinion. Breece Hall is going to have to compete in that backfield. Travis Etienne, again, as we all remember, there's a reason why he's going to be the lead back of this offense. James Robinson, week 16, torn Achilles against the New York Jets. In that contest, unfortunately went down. Many of us were burnt by it in our fantasy playoffs. We'll all remember that. But again, the issue is coming back from an Achilles, it's not an easy process. Even though we saw Cam Akers do some absolute superhero, non-human things this last season by tearing his Achilles in the offseason and then making it back for the playoffs, I don't see James Robinson being able to kind of get into that position. Appreciate the question. Bears fan says, it's probably their way of getting more people to do the tournament. Yeah, I don't know what context we were talking about, but either way. Vance Walker says Saints record prediction. I mean, is there... Okay, let's see here. Is the full unedited schedules like out? Let's see here. Saints 2022 schedule. Because I know what teams they're potentially playing, but I don't know the order of it. This is what I'll say. Regardless, I mean, I think it's actually out. Yeah, it is out. Okay. So, I mean, I'm looking at it up and down the board here. I'm not going to predict every single game here, but I already see some tough ones. They got to play the NFC West, which means they have to play against Arizona. They have to play against the 49ers and the Rams. Those are three difficult games by itself. You got to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers twice. You got to play against the Bengals are not an easy team. The Raiders are not an easy team. The Vikings are not an easy walk in the park. The Eagles are not a walk in the park. The Eagles have had their number for quite some time here. So, all in all, I'm not trying to, say that it's going to be a, impossible season, but it's going to be difficult. But that being said, they're a well-coached team. They've got a stud defense. Jameis just has to show up, not turn over the ball, and execute when the defense gets him the ball back, get down the field and score. That's it. And they got to get the ball to Kamara. Let him just run out the clock. I know they don't really feed the ball to Kamara often. In his career, I want to think 60 plus games that he's played thus far. He's only had 1 or 2 games of over 100 rushing yards. He's not really a commanding running back. He's obviously a receiver, but they just got to get him the ball more than they did last year. Let's see here. Jason says, do you think that Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster have the best years of their career coming up? I think Allen Robinson's best career year, 2015 with Jacksonville? He had himself 1,400 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns plus, if I'm not mistaken. It was a lot of garbage time with Blake Bortles. That'll probably be his peak. I don't know if he'll be able to get close to that, but I think this year is going to be pretty promising in the idea that Allen Robinson should very easily be a top 24 wide receiver, to say the very least. Assuming there is no injury to him, he should be able to dominate. Obviously, this is, in my opinion, the best quarterback he's ever played with, and I think we can all agree with that. Matthew Stafford compared to Justin Fields, Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Mitchell Trubisky, and Blake Bortles. I think Matthew Stafford takes that one relatively easily. I'm sure we can all agree on. So besides the fact that he's playing with the best quarterback and probably the best offensive-minded head coach that he is, played under, we're going to have a situation here where Allen Robinson should be great. I've mentioned this in the past. I'll go ahead and reiterate it. Robert Woods last season, weeks 1 through 9, prior to his season-ending ACL injury at practice, Robert Woods is the number 11 overall wide receiver in a half PPR scoring format in fantasy. So, and that was all while Cooper Kupp was still the number 1 at the position. So this offense can very easily sustain 2 top 12 wide receivers. Obviously, I'm not predicting that Allen Robinson is going to get there. I think there's a lot more talented guys that are going to see more opportunity. But I think top 24 is certainly promising, maybe even top 16 for Robinson. Now, as for Juju Smith, that's the one that I'm a little bit hesitant on. Juju Smith-Schuster has played well. I mean, we just go back to 2020. had himself a good year there. We've seen him play well. Obviously, kind of got phased out in. Actually, no, he didn't really even get phased out. He just got injured. That was really it. So, it's possible. And if I'm not mistaken, it was like a broken collarbone, something like that. So it wasn't like it was an ACL or anything for Juju. So, I mean, again, he's a young wide receiver. If Patrick Mahomes and him can find that connection, by all means, I wouldn't put it past him to potentially have another great year going forward. Ron T says, I found... how long do you think Jeudy will be suspended? I don't know the details, guys. In all honesty, I didn't read into it. I just saw he was arrested, and I was like, all right, well, doesn't matter because it's not going to impede me on doing anything today. Obviously, I'll be mock drafting in about 10 minutes here, but as of that, it doesn't think, I don't really think it's going to play a factor until we get official news. So we'll just wait. Again, we don't even know if Deshaun Watson's getting suspended, right? There's so many questions regarding the NFL right now. We're really kind of like throwing darts at a board and just hoping that we hit on some of these. But Christopher sent in the question, says, what position will you place the most emphasis on in fantasy for fantasy season? What position will you place the most emphasis for this fantasy season? I always play, it depends, right? So fantasy football, in terms of a scoring metric, is always going to be in favor of running backs. Now, unless you play in a system where it's potentially 6 point per passing touchdown, super flex, having more than one quarterback that can start, only then do the running back position kind of take a backseat at times. Because that if you're playing in a 12-team league and 24 quarterbacks have to be started every single week, it'll diminish the value of running backs. And that's what makes it relatively more competitive in that regard. But running backs, based on the fact that they do everything, they catch the ball, they run the ball, they're getting the most touchdowns, predominantly across all positions, they're obviously, the most important position. But, I guess it just depends. Like, I do like to put emphasis on tight ends because I think it's really important to get a good tight end. But then again, many of us have proven that you don't need one. You can go ahead, wait until the late round, and then eventually pick up one off of the waiver wire. I mean, we've seen it in the last couple seasons. You go back to 2019, Darren Waller and Mark Andrews. Those were two guys picked up off of waivers. You go back to 2020, Robert Tonyan, Jonnu Smith, two guys picked off of waivers, stud plays. This last season, Dalton Schultz off of the waivers. I mean, my goodness, did he go off? Not even that. Dawson Knox was unbelievable. Another one of these players that just comes out of nowhere and dominates. So again, there's just there's a lot you can go into. But right now, again, running back, they're the king of fantasy. And that's obviously what I kind of preach as we continue. David says, yo, Cowboys play the Rams. Yeah, that's week 1. No, that's not week 1. That's the Bills that play the Rams. My apologies. And it's on my birthday, says David. It's the only time they come to California, but the tickets are pricey. Damn. Yeah, anytime there's a Cowboys game, of course, they got to jack up the prices because they know the diehards will pay it regardless. So, hey, David, hope you enjoy that. Hope you can make it out to that. That'd be fun. Brandon says Jeudy was arrested for tampering. Okay, it doesn't matter what the reason was. I'm not even interested. It doesn't make a difference to me. Regardless, we'll see what the sentence ends up being. We'll see if he's guilty or I don't. It doesn't play much of a factor in my current day projections of that offense. Again, if one, let's say for example, theoretically, okay, let's go down on a hypothetical. Jerry Jeudy, boom, suspended for 8 games. Great. Maybe they go sign Jarvis Landry. Maybe they go, add another piece. So that there's always a potential that though a player could lose potential value in a season, another one could, gain value. Let's talk about DeAndre Hopkins. That was the news a couple weeks ago, right? DeAndre Hopkins suspended for the first six games, if I'm not mistaken, of the 2022 season. Marquise Hollywood Brown, the newest member of the Arizona Cardinals, by all means, is going to be a stud play from weeks 1 through 6. Now, the question is, by the time you get to week 7, week 8, do you have to trade Marquise Brown and worry that DeAndre Hopkins is going to siphon value? Well, that's the stuff we're going to talk about this offseason once we get there. All right. Nitro says, Andrew, Would you be down to read a short 2-paragraph breakdown / prediction I made of Tyler Boyd's 2018 season? LOL. Only write-up I ever made, and I was kind of proud of it. Can link the post I made. Yeah, I mean, Nitro, I would say the best way of sending that to me would be to either DM me on Twitter, just straight direct message, and I'll check it out after the stream. Or you can send it on our Discord channel. There's a Discord link down in the description, free Discord you can hop into, and then just post it in like the suggestions. Just post it in any tab and just be like, Andrew from stream, Tyler Boyd. And I'll 100%, I'll read it. And honestly, either way, wherever you send it, I'll be able to kind of give you back feedback if you want. Ron T says, do you think Baker Mayfield gets traded? Thoughts on suspension for... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, that's another thing. I don't know if Watson's going to be suspended, and I don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to be traded. I think it is going to take a quarterback to get injured this offseason in order for Baker Mayfield to be traded. Let's say, for example, a team that believes they're a contender. They go down with a quarterback injury, and they're pretty bummed about it. Let's say, for example, theoretically, we get into a position where, God forbid, Matthew Stafford tears his ACL. That's the worst thing that could happen, right? For the Rams, they want to go for a 2-peat. Are they willing? Because we know how frugal they are with, or not frugal. They're more lax. They don't care. They'll throw away picks just to help them win games. Maybe they go ahead and trade, a 4th rounder for a Baker Mayfield. Hey, you never know. Stuff like that could happen very easily. Mr. Blop says, what is your top wide receiver pick for next season? It's Cooper Kupp, followed by Justin Jefferson, followed by Jamar Chase. And then I would say number 4 is most likely Devontae Adams. Number 5 is going to be between Tyreek Hill and Debo, based on what the Debo situation ends up being. What's up, Fantasy Dog? How you doing? John Richardson, how you doing? Fantasy football is finally back. I mean, listen, it finally back. It's been here, but again, I like to play the off season relatively quiet until a certain point, and then everyday content till we get to the season. Thank you, Ray. Vance Walker. What's the earliest pick you would take a wide receiver at? I think that mainly depends on what the scoring format is and what has already been selected. Let's say, for example, my number 1 wide receiver is Cooper Kupp. Again, Rams jersey. What a surprise. I would probably be safe to say that, let's say, for example, we have Jonathan Taylor, Eckler off the board. We got Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, those kind of guys off the board. Joe Mixon. I'd be comfortable taking Cooper Kupp as the number 6 overall pick and my number 1 pick. But very seldom will I ever take Cooper Kupp early in a draft. And I'll explain to you the logic. And this is something that I'm going to obviously emphasize as we go through like draft guide videos this upcoming offseason, near like July, August. If you take a wide receiver in the first 3 picks of a respective draft, by the time the draft goes down to the 12th pick and comes all the way back down, the best running back prospects that are available are going to be guys that aren't RB1s and may just barely be RB2 category, kind of, be given enough opportunity to make that. So again, it is tough. Again, we talk about drop off of production. There are so many more stable wide receivers after the first 2 to 3 rounds that I always try to make sure I get 2 running backs in those first 3 in order to avoid the chaos of rounds 4 through 7 of trying to find a running back, because once we get there, it is really a no man's land. Let's see here. John Richardson says George Kittle equals bust. I guess it's really going to come down to who's playing quarterback there, right? If it is, the Trey Lance instead of Jimmy Garoppolo, which we're all assuming is going to be probably the case, I would assume to say that George Kittle will be okay, but in the games that they played together last season, specifically the one against Arizona, a little bit against Seattle, and the later season game, if I'm not mistaken, Trey Lance played against Houston. He was a starter then as well. George Kittle didn't get very much love from Lance in terms of targets, and he was running his fair share of routes. But and the thing about Kittle that always is risky is his injury history. We all know that. He always misses games every year. Okay, so before I answer some of these questions, again, I'll be answering questions for the entirety of the stream. I don't know how long we're going to go for, but I'll be sure to address every single one that I potentially see here to the best of my abilities. I want to thank you guys for coming out here. I will be transitioning to beginning a mock, or not even a mock draft. I mean, I consider them mock drafts, right? Because it's best ball. And here's the thing about best ball. You don't even have to set your lineups, right? It'll do it by itself. But anyway, I want to go ahead, transition there. We'll be doing this via Underdog Fantasy again. I do talk about them a lot because really, when we're talking about getting a live draft in and getting the experience of learning ADPs and all that kind of stuff, it's the best place to do it. Just want to go ahead and plug it really quickly. If you guys haven't checked them out yet, there's a link down in the description. If you go ahead and travel to Underdog Fantasy today and you sign up using promo code Andrew, my name, ANDREW, Underdog Fantasy is willing to match up to $100 of your first deposit. So again, if you want to go ahead and deposit 100, they'll match you with 100 in game. Start with 200. If you want to just go ahead, deposit 20, they'll match that 20 with another, and you can go ahead and get yourself started. Whether it is, Best Ball Mania 3 with a giant prize pool, or potential other contests, whether it's NBA, NFL Pick'ems, all of that up for grabs. Obviously, you can do that via the phone, on your desktop, laptop. Check it out if you're interested. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead. Let me move a couple things around here, ladies and gentlemen. And we need to close that, send that YouTube chat back up there. We can bring that sucker down. And the ball is going to be flying at the screen. Do not be afraid. All right, so this is Best Ball Mania 3. The prize pool is ginormous, right? First place gets $2 million. Dude, imagine the taxes on that sucker. Whew. Hey, but I wouldn't mind that. Hey, listen, take half of it, California. I don't mind. So, dude, if you win one of those, that is insanity. But either way, let's get into this, shall we? You know what I actually want to do? I would like to. How do I do that though? I don't think I can. Okay, I'll just look at the chat from my other monitor. No problem. We're gonna go ahead. Let's go ahead. Hop into here. I don't know how long it's potentially going to take for me to get into a lobby, but for right now, let's just center myself here and I'll answer questions from the chat. All right, so a couple more questions were sent in here. Let's see here. So after John Richardson's comment, it was it was Christopher saying, thoughts on Sam Darnold this season? I have very little hope in Sam Darnold's potential. He showed us who he was last year, and sure, he does present value to DJ Moore, but I think any quarterback in that offense could give him value. So I really just look at Sam Darnold as an extension of DJ Moore, and why I kind of maybe, don't go down that road as often. Justin says Nelson Agholor, top 10 receiver. Yeah, that's funny. Nelson Agholor, if he has a singular top 10 week, or, this season in 2022, I wouldn't be surprised. Nelson Agholor always puts together, a couple ridiculous performances a year. It's always, on the table for him. He's got talent. There's a reason why he's still in the league. He's overpaid, certainly, but he's still got talent. Zach has a question, says, I think the Saints get Baker if Winston gets hurt again. Otherwise, Jameis is going to be a QB1 this year, to be honest. Zach, that is a very bold statement. I have not heard anyone else sing from the rooftops in support of Jameis in that regard. I'm the number 5 pick. All right. So I guess we're putting it to the test here. If Cooper's available, maybe we should, I think it might be a good idea to draft Kupp at number 5, if he gets there to me, of course. We'll see. All right, just want to give you guys some context as to what exactly I'm drafting here. This is my first Best Ball Mania 3 draft, by the way. So it is a half PPR scoring format, and it is consisted of 1 starting quarterback, 2 starting running backs, 3 starting wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and 10 bench spots. So we will be drafting a total of 18 rounds here. All is well. Looks good to me. Half PPR, which is, again, meeting everyone in the middle, whether you do play in a full PPR or a standard scoring format. Should be good to go. Let's leave that there. And once my, draft starts in 10 seconds. All right, so what running backs are available if, in fact, we end up seeing Cooper go before me? Because I think he could. Yeah, I'm fine with any of these guys. Okay, we're good to go. Let's see. Fantasy Doc says Jefferson over Chase, 100%. Yes. Wow, Cooper Kupp went 1.1. You know, I'm not surprised entirely because I know underdog drafters do kind of go in this direction per se. They love their wide receivers. We'll just put it like that. They love their wide receivers. I don't blame them, but we're gonna test this. Basically, it's gonna be a test. I want to see what that guy's first running back looks like because that's always my fear of going wide receiver. What is this? Dang, another wide receiver taken, huh? Alrighty. We have the pick of the litter. Do we want to go Derrick Henry or do we want to go Austin Eckler? To be totally honest, I'm a Henry. I can't ever leave Henry on the board. I don't know what it is, guys. I just can't avoid it. He's just too good, man. And there's no more AJ Brown. Okay, let's get back to this chat. Sorry, guys. All right, Michael sent in a question. Says, "Hey Andy, would you put Stefon Diggs?" Yes. You know, that's a name that I completely forgot. I honestly think now that I've been reminded, I appreciate that, Michael. Stefon Diggs probably my number 4. Maybe, yes, no, not maybe. Definitely in the conversation of being ahead of Devontae Adams there. So yeah, my bad. Totally forgot about him. Christian McCaffrey over Cooper Kupp, question mark. I mean, again, it depends on how risk averse you are. If you are playing in one league out of, let's say you only play in one league all season, then yeah, maybe you don't want to go ahead and grab the player that is synonymous with getting injured. Did someone take Herbert in the first round? Damn, the people are just, they're all about it. And I appreciate that. So yeah, again, if you do play in like myself, I play in a lot of leagues. I'm not afraid of taking McCaffrey in one of them because if it ends up, blowing up in my face, so be it. I'll join the rest of society that ended up taking that risk. Let's see here. Ron T says, which rookie running back and wide receiver do you think fits their okay, yeah. All right, that's a good question. I don't know who fits best. I really look at, okay, who's going to get the most opportunity going into 2021? And really, there's not a lot of, okay, I would say Breece Hall has the best chance of just outright winning his backfield because of his blatant talent. Purely. Now, obviously, there's conversations about the running back that got drafted to Seattle, but there is, Rashad Penny that he has to get through this year, which is obviously something that we're all keeping an eye on. Man, Mixon went in the second round. This is absolute insanity. AJ Brown went that fast? Okay, that's interesting. But as for wide receivers are always tricky. Like I look at Drake London, I think he should be good, but can his quarterback support him enough? Eber says, or Eber says, is the strategy for best ball draft too different from regular PPR drafts? Yeah, I would say that it depends on your outlook towards it. A lot of people will stack wide receivers. You see how many wide receivers have just gone? Like, we still have Swift, Kamara on the board, right? Oh wait, I'm on the clock already. Damn. Okay, that was quick. Okay, so let's see here. Based on what has happened already, let's look at wide receiver. Tyreek Hill's still there. I'm not mad at that, but I also want running back. So give me DeAndre Swift. Thank you very much. So I'm going to take D Swift. I'm going to come back and grab a wide receiver here and then keep it moving. All right, a couple more questions in the chat. Diggs over Chase. He's regressing. There's a possibility that, honestly, there is. But again, Diggs is in an interesting scenario, right? I don't think he can really get more opportunity than he has seen. I mean, it's back-to-back seasons of 160 plus targets. Unless he's going to score himself 14 touchdowns, that's where his, potential ceiling grows in comparison to other players. Chase's touchdown rate on a per team pass attempt was ridiculously high and unsustainable. Okay, well, here's the thing about their respective offense. If Joe Burrow, last year, what did he throw? 34 touchdowns? If he's going to do anything remotely close to that, okay? Let's say, for example, let's say he does anything remotely close to that. 34 again, he repeats it. I mean, besides Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, we have Hayden Hurst as their best tight end, as a receiving tight end. Again, that's already, a sketchy situation. Okay, so the number 1 overall pick ended up getting Chubb and Aaron Jones as his top 2 backs. To be honest, not mad at it. Not mad at it at all. But in regards to Joe Burrow, if he's able to get the ball, relatively equally, if we just distribute it, there's a lot of touchdowns to go around in that offense, because I don't expect Joe Mixon to get many receiving touchdowns. That's not what he's known for. Samaje Perine may get an occasional, maybe Hayden Hurst gets his an occasional, receiving touchdown, but ultimately there's a lot of upside for Ja'Marr Chase there. Yes, he scored a lot of touchdowns, but there's nothing to say that he can't do it again. Alrighty. So the wide receiver that I wanted most of all, which was Mike Evans there, has been taken from me. Quite unfortunate to say the least. Therefore, the wide receiver position is not looking as fun for me, but at this point, I think I'm probably just going Jalen Waddle here. TJ, yeah, no. We can come back for tight end. I'll take Waddle. That's fine. All right, let's see the chat real quick. Would you rather have T. Higgins later on in the draft? I mean, yes, probably, because I think T. Higgins is very easily a top 12 wide receiver. His averages speak to that. I mean, 2020 or 2021, his averages are relatively safe. The only difference between him and Ja'Marr Chase is just touchdowns. Ja'Marr Chase has scored twice as many touchdowns as T. Higgins as of 2021, right? So there's a lot of potential for T. Higgins to expand his role, stay healthy, don't miss a couple games there, and he's a top 12 guy for sure. Let's see here. Who has the better offensive line, the Colts or the Titans this year? It's not even close. The Colts by a million miles, to be honest, in my opinion. The Titans, they lost their starting right tackle and their starting left guard. Both of those guys were top at the position at run blocking, so they're in a little bit of a tricky situation there. But, obviously Derrick Henry, hopefully the talent's going to surpass what they have up front. But yeah, the Colts are they're stacked up front. It's tough to, there's not a lot of offensive lines in general that are better than them at what they do. And with a better quarterback, the pass blocking deficiencies that they've had in the past won't be as apparent. And also, to be honest, the Colts had 9 starting offensive linemen last year. They had a lot of injuries, definitely plagued them. If they kind of tighten it up there, stay healthy, obviously that's an unpredictable metric, but if they can stay healthy, they're not in a bad spot. Let's see here. Go Lions, says Emerald. Okay. Vance Walker says G's Cup. Yeah, that's actually a great team, low-key. And the only reason he's able to get that is because people, dude, wide receiver has flown off the board. Okay, let's see if I can get another. Here we go. So I know it's behind me and I might be in the way. Wide receiver is flying off the board. There were just as many wide receivers. Let's see here. 3. Am I on the clock? Actually, I don't want to miss anything. Am I next, maybe? I'm in a couple picks here. Wide receiver flew off the board. In this this current round, wide receiver has been 4 out of the last 5 picks. So definitely, and there goes another one. Chris Godwin coming off the ACL. Okay, so where are we at here? When is my next selection? Because honestly, I'm thinking, I think I can come back for that then. All right. Any good run? Dude, the fact that Zeke sits where he is, oh man, Zeke just he's a tricky running back to say the least. All right, of the available wide receivers, a lot of them are sketchy to say. Wow, a lot of them are sketchy. Of the group though, I prefer Mike Williams. All right, I want to try to get a tight end when it comes back to me. Specifically, Hawk. And actually, no. If it does land in my lap, sure, but I don't know if I need to force it there, because at this point, the difference between Hawkinson and Knox might not even be that much this year. Maybe we go another running back. Yeah, I think I'll probably go running back there just to ensure it, and then I'll figure it out as we go. Okay. Anyway, I can't really pay attention to the draft. Typically, what I like to do is look at the draft and know what people have selected, so I can kind of get an idea as to what they're going to select in upcoming picks, but it's not a big deal. I'd rather just talk to you guys in the chat. Evans is up on my board too. Yeah, listen, Mike Evans is going to be incredible this year. There's no Antonio Brown. I know they're going to try to replace him with Russell Gage, but the fact that there's no Chris Godwin at maybe a full capacity early on in the season, maybe he starts on the PUP list because he's coming off the ACL. If he doesn't, no big deal. But Mike Evans, the way that Tom Brady's played in the last 2 years, he's top 12 status easily. So anytime I have an opportunity to draft him as such and be my number one wide receiver, I'll take it. I like Connor over both of them. Okay, you're talking to Vance. Okay, no problem. Okay, so let's see here. Zeke coming off the board, Akers coming off the board, 2 quarterbacks flying off relatively quickly. I can wait on quarterback. I think I want to go running back here. Dude, it is so interesting to see guys like Josh Jacobs being taken ahead of Antonio Gibson. Like, I understand why, because Antonio Gibson had a running back drafted behind him. Everyone's beginning to worry in regards to that. J.K. Dobbins still on the board. Dude, I mean, am I the only Dobbins believer? I think I might be. Listen, I'm risking it for the biscuit, guys. I'm just going for it. All right, let's get back in this chat. Draft Higgins and Gibson at ADP this year. Fading these two is a big mistake this season. Yeah, look, Antonio Gibson is a fantastic pick where he's at. I think a lot of people are just afraid of J.D. McKissic coming back and whoever they drafted at running back. Obviously, I haven't done because Washington is the final team in terms of alphabetical order. I haven't even gotten to them in terms of my preseason breakdown. So when I get there, I'll obviously break it down completely. But I think just people are afraid. They don't want to get burnt. I mean, Antonio Gibson has been a top 12 running back in back-to-back seasons. The guy was a college wide receiver. Now, everyone complains, hey, you know, he's not as sustainable. He gets injured. Dude, every running back gets injured. They just do. That's the nature of the game. So I'm not even mad at it. Kyler Murray coming off the board in the 5th. Again, this is a learning game. It really is. The ADPs on Underdog are insanity, but hey, I love the chaos of it. It's an experience to say the least. Yeah, look, Jacob makes a statement in the chat, says, I like Dobbins a lot still. Yeah, the reason why I'm back in on the Dobbins train per se, because I was all in on him last year. Obviously, injury, horrible, sucks. Then I was all in on Gus Edwards immediately after. Injury, horrible, sucks. But the reason why I'm back in on him is they didn't sign Melvin Gordon, which was the rumor. They didn't draft a running back early. They drafted one in the 6th, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too, and he's a receiving guy. He's predominantly been a receiver in college out of the backfield. That's his best overall trait. This is an offense that doesn't have in Marquise Hollywood Brown anymore. They are running the ball and doing it with extra oomph this year. So I'm going to be excited to see a lot of 2 tight end sets, more blockers up front, and a lot of chaos from that offense. I think they play the Jets week 1. You know, those Jets are going to be in trouble. They're going to be in trouble. All right, and Amon-Ra St. Brown taken, huh? Okay, what do I even have here? I have taken 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. Tight ends kind of seems relatively stable at this point. I don't know if you guys love Brandon Cooks as much as I do. I find myself loving him more and more every time I update his draft profile in terms of research. Dude is just special, actually. And I don't even care that Davis Mills is his quarterback. I actually think that that's great for him. Davis Mills played relatively well last year. In the last 9 starts of his season, I know he only had 14 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but he's only getting better. If Davis Mills was a quarterback coming out in the 2022 class, he would have been the first quarterback off the board. I firmly believe that. Danny Drew says, Josh Allen must Josh Allen a must at quarterback. Bills going to the Super Bowl this year. I mean, it's very possible. Josh Allen's been the number one quarterback in fantasy back-to-back seasons. Dude's a stud. He probably will be it once again. Okay, I'm looking at quarterback here because what are we in the 7th round? I mean, I honestly can wait. I think I'm getting greedy wanting to take a quarterback. Yeah, I'm just being greedy. Let's just wait. Let's see what I can build. Yeah, let's see what I can build. A couple more questions comes in here. Gibson's rookie DVOA plus 200%, very efficient top back. 2021 turf toe. Yep, shin splints. What went off the board? Matthew Stafford. Okay, the quarterback run may begin here. Yeah, you make a great point. I mean, look, anybody who doesn't believe in Gibson just isn't watching him or hasn't had them on their team. You know, I think there's a lot of hesitancy with players that you may not, or you may have had and they burnt you and you're like, I don't want to go back down, that path. Dude, Gibson's he's been insane. I mean, when Gibson's been by himself in that backfield with the quarterback run is beginning. And I don't know if I want to be theoretically left out here. Quarterbacks. So that guy doesn't have one. That guy doesn't have one. Okay. So most likely I should probably just take one. As for who, I mean, listen, I'm not mad at taking Brady. We'll take that and we'll let it run. Going back to the chat. Gibson in the last, I mean, I have the stats. Let me find it. Give me a second. The dude is he's special. When everyone talks about like Deebo Samuel and the transition of going from a wide receiver to a running back, that's what Antonio Gibson was. Again, he had more catches in college than rushing attempts, guys. Like it's an anomaly that he has done what he's done thus far. But where's the stats here? Here we go. Last season, post bye week, weeks 10 through 18, the dude averaged 22.5 opportunities per game, which was rushing attempts or targets, and averaged 15 fantasy points per game, 15.13 to be exact in a half PPR scoring format. When he's given opportunity, the man will deliver, especially regardless of the offense being led by Taylor Heineke, Garrett Gilbert. I mean, there were the people that they were starting at quarterback last year. I understand, Wentz may not be the greatest upgrade, but I think it is an upgrade nonetheless. So they're only going to have more opportunity there. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. We'll see. We'll close that out. Go back here. Derek Carr coming off the board. Wait, Derek Carr went before who? Trey Lance? Okay. I could see that because, again, people don't know if, Jimmy G is... Okay, there it is. Never mind. But yeah, now that that's happening, I'm like, Kenneth Walker taking, people believing in the Seattle running back. I mean, I respect it. Listen, there's a little bit of momentum behind that train. I don't blame it. Again, I think Chris Carson probably goes to the old folks home this season. Rashad Penny, obviously off the roster next year. Kenneth Walker could end up getting 200 touches this year if they plan on doing what they've said they're going to do. And I don't really ever look at Pete Carroll and call him a liar. I think what he says is typically gone on to be true. They want to run the ball. And if they run the ball 400 times this year as an offense and they want to split 200 carry or 200 touches, between, I don't know if they're going to run it 400 times. They don't really have that mobile of a quarterback. Let's say they run the ball 350 times and they split 200 touches a pop with receptions included between Kenneth Walker and Rashad Penny. I wouldn't be surprised. Dawson Knox taken off the board. Watson taken off the board. Okay, interesting. Very, very interesting. Damn, James Cook is being taken far too early. That ADP is wild. Okay, that's interesting. That guy has 2 tight ends already. What does he have? Let me see here. He already has Kelsey and Kittle. Sheesh. Okay, interesting. I mean, that's why I'm looking at tight end thinking I want to get into the conversation real quick. Am I convinced by any of these guys? Yeah, I'll take Goddard. It's fine by me. What's up, DB? How's it going? I didn't forget. What's up, DB? How you doing? What happened here in the chat? Let's see. Michael says, who are your sleepers in the mid rounds that you're targeting this year? Like sleepers per se. Listen, and I think Michael Pittman is a great player. I think we talked about that in the last stream. Mid round guys that are, I don't know if there are sleepers in the mid rounds. Like when you talk about mid rounds, do you mean like round 10 and on, or do you mean like rounds 5 through 9? You know, a clarification on that would kind of give me an idea as to. Damn, Robert Tonyan, huh? Okay, interesting. Penny is a steal, but he's the worst liar of all time. Dude, they have always said every year they want to run the ball more. That's all they say. Any press conference that you see from Pete Carroll, the dude is so adamant on running the ball. It is absolute just chaos. That's why Russell Wilson wanted to get out, because they're like, all right, he wants to run the ball even more, even though we have 2 stud wide receivers. All right, I got to get out of here. Vance says, is there any way to do no cash regular mock drafts on Underdog? No. So they're just primarily, as you can see on screen, you buy in, you play for the prize pool, keep it moving. Okay. Let me focus in here. Pollard off the board. Singletary's next. Lockett taken. All right, let's see what wide receiver has in store for us, huh? Russell Gage, Scantling, Jameson, Tony, Boyd, Golladay, Parker. I mean, if all of these guys, I love Robert Woods the most because I'm just a Robert Woods guy. Out of all these running backs, Stevenson is like a low-key grab. Okay, so let's do this for now. Give me Robert Woods. Taking over the number 1 role over there. And then we'll think about the rest of the position. Tannehill's a top 5 quarterback, says Gabriel. Gabriel, man, I wish that was the case. I wish. I mean, like, I like Tannehill, right? I don't think he's the greatest talent on earth, especially at quarterback. And he certainly has shown, you know, it's not the, he's not the best quarterback. He certainly relies upon play action and having a stud running back behind him to get him to the level that he's at. But I don't know if he's buying for that kind of stuff. I mean, guys, again, there's so many better players with better surrounding supporting casts, whether it's up front as an offensive line or receiving options. It's crazy. So yeah, no, I would say that's very unlikely. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I'd say it's unlikely for sure. Which is leaning me towards impossible. Singletary or Woods? I would have taken Singletary if it was available. The fact that he went in front of me led me to taking Woods. Listen, I like Woods. Again, Treylon Burks is going to be a topic of conversation. So is Austin Hooper this offseason, but he's a rookie. Austin Hooper's with a new team in an offense that this last season with a new offensive coordinator didn't really target their tight ends very much. I know it's a different talent, you know, having Austin Hooper on roster instead of a Jeff Swaim, you know, Anthony Firkser, those other guys, but I'm still of the opinion that Robert Woods, again, tore his ACL week 9, should be fully ready to go. Stud guy. He's, I mean, in his career, the last 3 years, I think 2018, 19, 2021, all 4 of those seasons, he's been a top 17 overall fantasy wide receiver, half PPR. So he's just got to continue momentum and should be good to go. Kadarius Toney going relatively early. Melvin Gordon there is a fantastic pick. I was hoping he was going to come back to me. Unfortunately, did not in this regard, but hey, we're okay with it. Okay, I'm thinking to myself, when is the best time to take a second tight end? Rob Gronkowski gets taken as we look at tight ends. Because I honestly think Hunter Henry's a guy that in a best ball, I'm okay with, right? Because in a best ball format, if you pick a player regardless of, it's just about who plays better in that week. If I can go ahead and, he scores 7, 8 touchdowns, those are the 8 weeks that he'll be the starter for my team, because he'll just have the highest scoring points out of all those tight ends at that given moment. So not a bad spot there. All right, I'm looking at everything else here. I'll take Kareem Hunt. I don't know why people are afraid of taking Kareem Hunt there. I don't get it. I think Ramondre Stevenson was another guy that I was okay with there. I think Ramondre may be slowly but surely taking that job away from Damian Harris. Again, Damian Harris next year, if I'm not mistaken. Let me think here. How many years has he been in the league? He's been in the league 3 years. This will be his 4th. His contract will be up at the end of next year. So I think they may be kind of transitioning towards Ramondre. And I think they drafted 2 running backs in the draft this season. So maybe they're not looking towards that as much. But anyway, Kareem Hunt, man. Whether it's with Nick Chubb or without him, I mean, it is what it is. Kevin Stefanski wants to get him the ball. That's it. And he can join my team. I don't have a problem with that. But I certainly want another quarterback. I certainly want another tight end here. As for another quarterback, I mean, the talent that remains is not convincing. I don't mind Tua, but I also want a guy that's going to put up like insane numbers. Like I want the occasional 3 touchdown week. Otherwise, no one's really outscoring Tom Brady in a best ball kind of regard. So of the guys, nothing's like popping out. Mike Gesicki, I have really no interest in. Unless Mike Gesicki scores a touchdown, and this goes for regular redraft leagues on top of it. Unless Mike Gesicki scores a touchdown, you're pretty much getting yourself 6 fantasy points a week. And if you go look at his touchdown numbers in the last 2 seasons with Tua, it doesn't look good. "35 years from now, I'm going to be a little old lady playing fantasy football." Listen, join the club. We're gonna all be old and we're going to all be playing fantasy. Oh, my goodness. Danny Drew says, Russell Wilson, quarterback, going to be a bust in Denver. Interesting take. Hey, to each their own. I think his offensive line's improved. Obviously, it's better to have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett as a receiving threat to support him, but I certainly think that the efficiency of that Denver defense and the better coaching overall in terms of an offensive play caller will help him continue to be a stud. Does anybody have a second quarterback? I'm actually just purely curious. Anybody? So there's actually a fair amount of teams, like 3 or 4. So it's going to come eventually. I think Hunter Henry's going to be there. Or Cole Kmet, David Njoku, I wouldn't even be mad at. So we'll wait there. Do I want to take any of these guys? No, I'm not really convinced there. Quarterback wise, is there anything here that looks appealing? Not really. So we go back to running back, and at this point, I got auto drafted because I came back to the. What did it grab me? It took me James Cook. No, I got auto drafted because I wasn't paying attention. Okay, anyway, keep it moving. Antonio says Judy was arrested. Yes, we're aware. We'll see what happens. Hurts over Wilson. Yeah, no, listen, Jalen Hurts in a 4-point per passing touchdown format with the addition of AJ Brown and the potential of them throwing the ball more should be a really good quarterback. I think he's in a position to be a top 6 guy. So yeah, I think he probably outscores Wilson. Probably. Especially in a 4-point per passing touchdown league, especially if Wilson also stops running the ball. Last year, we saw a lot of that. I know he missed time, but in terms of averages compared to like 2017 to 2020, the difference between rushing yards per game and rushing attempts per game was down. So I don't know if that was a matter of Russell Wilson just trying to keep himself healthy, trying to make sure he's not taking any more hits. Did I just get auto-picked again because I'm not paying attention? No, okay, good. I'm about to say. Wait, did I? No, okay. I mean, for a second there, I was convinced because I saw like a little flash. So yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts should be in a decent spot. But if Russell Wilson stops running the ball as much as he used to, there could be a little bit of a downtick there overall in terms of potential for sure. If Kareem Hunt is sent away from the Browns, would you take Chubb in the late first round or early second? Yeah, I would. I don't know how they would send him away or why they would send him away. I don't really see the incentive of them doing so. Maybe they just trust D'Ernest Johnson and they want to move Kareem Hunt to another team. Sure, if they want to do that, by all means, get it done. But if that's the case, yes. In that regard, I think Nick Chubb probably gets more opportunity as a receiving back, which overall is going to just help his value. That being said, I've done the stat breakdown already. The games that Nick Chubb is by himself and there is no Kareem Hunt active because he's injured, Nick Chubb doesn't see that many more targets. Like the averages are nothing close. Like in games that he was with him or without him, it was like a 14-17 split of total targets. Like he barely gets any more. So the play calling doesn't really change that. There goes Hunter Henry, man. Just when I wanted. All right, well, is anybody willing to even invest in Taysom Hill as a tight end? Does anybody believe in the potential there? I don't know if there is any, but Taysom Hill, dude, you never know if he's not going back to quarterback. I can assure you that, but he'll probably throw a couple passes this season, maybe one for a touchdown. You never know. All right, the two teams in front of me already have 3 tight ends and 2 tight ends, so this should leave me for Cole Kmet, which would be exciting. I'd love to get Cole Kmet on my team. Thank you. I'll take that. No problem there. All right, now we'll look elsewhere. Russ will run. He was saving himself. I mean, honestly, that's a fair argument. I think that there is a possibility that he exactly was just doing that. So yeah. Let's see here. Okay, Tim Patrick taken. That's not a bad pick, especially in the 12th. That's like super sleeper stuff. Sleeper sell. So of these guys, who has the most? I mean, honestly, if we're talking about just straight potential for points, I don't see why. Davis Mills all the way down there. I don't see why Mac Jones wouldn't be taken. If I can wait on Mac Jones, then I will. Like, actually. And I'll just start racking up wide receivers here. But maybe I want a third quarter. Let me think about this. If there's 18 total spots on this roster, if I go 6-6 and then 3-3, that's 18. Okay, I could do that theoretically. But I think I've already hit my quota of... No, I haven't actually. Wow. Okay, I still got a lot of running backs and wide receivers to take. Danny Drew says, need Justin Herbert at QB. Dude, Justin Herbert went 1.7 in this draft. Look at this. Look at this. He went 1.7. So, sheesh. Don't get me wrong. Justin Herbert's my number 2 quarterback on the year. That's where I have him ranked right now. So, I believe. Especially for someone born and raised in LA, I believe. So, yeah. Don't you worry. Vance Walker says, I just hated watching Nick Chubb rush down the field and then a Kareem Hunt sweep for a touchdown. Yeah, it is rough. It is rough. I can 100% empathize because I also was on the receiving end of a lot of points being siphoned in that regard. Okay, what else is available here? George Pickens being taken. We got some players here from some teams that really aren't like studs per se, and they're not really sleepers either. So I think I'm just going to take a quarterback here, take my second, and just run with it. I actually believe that Mac Jones is going to be a lot better. I know Josh McDaniels is in there, but I mean, it's funny enough. I have 2 guys that, heavily synonymous with New England in recent years, huh? Algier is actually not a bad pick either. So there's I guess a quiet rumbling at this current moment in time that Tyler Algier, who was drafted, I think, in the 5th round of this 2022 NFL draft, is going to potentially be the starting back for Atlanta. Now, Mike Davis was cut the other day. They still have Cordero Patterson, who they signed for a 2-year, $10 million deal. Cordero Patterson is probably going to be the lead back, but there is a quiet rumbling that maybe, just maybe, this rookie comes in ends up producing. He's a big back. I mean, we're talking about 5'11", 225 pounds. If I'm not mistaken, he went to BYU. I could be off on that, but I think that's what I remember. The guy is a rumbler, and the way that, of course, Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, wants to kind of approach it. He wants to play, run first, and then we'll think about passing later. So there's quiet rumblings, though. That's for sure. Okay, so I need a third tight end. Of the available guys, again, I don't mind. No, Gerald Everett's not bad. Neither is Austin Hooper. I don't trust Uzama. I don't trust Hayden Hurst. Evan Ingram's actually not bad. But he's always injured, so that's kind of a sketchy thing. Taysom Hill is definitely not something that I'm interested in, unless he was playing quarterback. To be honest, I've always been one that doesn't really care. I actually like the fact that Taysom Hill, speaking of BYU, Taysom Hill was, a pretty decent fantasy quarterback. He really was. He got the job done, to say the least. All right, let's look at some running backs here because we've ignored it as of late. Have we? Yeah, we've just ignored running back and wide receiver. So let's go ahead. Let's try to grab some studs here, or sleepers per se. Gus Edwards. I mean, I guess I could pair him with my Dobbins, but I don't really think that's the best idea. Honestly, I'm thinking Kenneth Gainwell is a better pick there. This guy's not a bad pick here. Sony Michel. I know Sony Michel signed with the Dolphins the other day. That is the worst thing for Raheem Mostert. I mean, Raheem Mostert is his own worst enemy because of his injuries, but that's a different conversation, I guess, altogether. Let's look at wide receiver here. I don't really trust DJ Chark. Neither do I trust Corey Davis to any extent. I'd love Will Fuller to get signed to a team. Same thing with Jarvis. I mean, I know they will, but I'd love that just to happen. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is a low-key sleeper. Okay, so I need a running back, though. So, of the available, Khalil Herbert, Mac Jones, I don't think Kenneth Gainwell is going to be like that important. I'm just going to take the risk. Nah, you know what? Let's go Kenneth Gainwell. Damn it, I've got auto-picked. All right, Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's fine, whatever. My pick's coming up. I'm thinking about it too much. I just got to play. All right, anyway, mid-round sleepers, breakout 7 through 11. I mean, again, this is the first draft that I've done. I wouldn't even categorize this yet as like what you're going to see in August. I think by the time we get to August, it'll look similar in terms of outline, but in terms of who and when, it's going to change. It's the first best ball draft I've done. Again, if you guys want to go ahead and participate in doing, a Best Ball Mania draft, you can go ahead, sign up via Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code Andrew, like it says up top there. There's a link down in the description if you're interested. Otherwise, do with this as you will. There goes Gus Edwards, KJ Osborne. All right, I got to get a running back here because I don't have one, and I'm very much so hopping back and forth between who the heck I want to take here. I mean, dude, there are some guys here that aren't the worst picks. If it was a full PPR, I would take J.D. McKissic or James White. You know what? Dude, I don't know what they want to do with their offense in New England. Like, James White could be good, but I don't know what they want to do. I don't even know who their offensive coordinator is. What did he have? 300? I mean, this right here, this stat line from Nyheim Hines, it just speaks, it just says out loud, vulture. Absolute vulture. Because that's what he is, right? I mean, it's the same thing with Gainwell. Vulture. They take touchdowns with no remorse. They don't care. You know what I need to do? I need to import my rankings into Underdog. I'll probably do that before next stream, but I certainly need to import it. I'm going to just take James White. I don't even care. At this point, I'm how many rounds in? I've just committed to chaos, and I'm okay with that. Jacob says, I'm in the draft. Not feeling happy about my wide receivers, though. Yeah, wide receiver is interesting. I mean, like I look at my wide receivers and I'm not mad at them, but I know they're not going to carry me every week. That's got to be the job of my running backs and my quarterbacks and my tight end. Yeah, like that's why people in I mean, dude, I'm telling you, wide receiver flies off this board so damn fast. So in the first round alone, what is it? 5 wide receivers, 6 running backs, and 1 quarterback, followed by 5 wide receivers, 5 running backs in the following round, followed by 5 wide receivers, 4 running backs, followed by 8 wide receivers, 2 running back. Like, dude, wide receiver is just flies, and it makes sense, right? Because when you think about running backs in the league that aren't in a running back by committee situation, there are very few of them that are efficient enough with the amount of touches that they get to be top 2-3 round picks. Because after you get past it, like I talked about earlier, the drop off is nosedive to like what Bitcoin looks like in the last couple of days, or all of those cryptos look in the last couple of days. Hit the like button. Thank you, Roy. I appreciate that. I appreciate all you guys coming out here, supporting the channel. If you have any questions, shoot it in the chat. Currently just drafting, shooting the shit, answering questions. First draft of Best Ball Mania 3, first of many, I would say. As of right now, we were the 5th pick. We started with a combination of going Henry into Swift into Waddle, barely hoping that Mike Evans would fall to us, but was taken 2 ahead of us. And then we had ourselves a Mike Williams, J.K. Dobbins, Brandon Cooks run into Tom Brady. I mean, is it the sexiest players? No. I wouldn't say I have the sexiest team of all time. But I certainly think that they get the job done. Bears fan, are you in here? Is that okay? Let's see here. What do we have? Jameson Russell, that's perfectly fine. Kamara's good. Fournette's good. Josh Jacobs is good. Miles Sanders got screwed over on touchdowns last season. Okay, you got Lockett after Burks, which is crazy. Can you imagine that? Tyler Lockett, because, man, Tyler Lockett's just, his value has just disappeared outright. Who's your tight ends? Let's see, Art. Zach Ertz, not bad. Hamler taken. Okay, we need a wide receiver. So this is what I'm going to do. Usually people will take a wide receiver that they know is on a roster. I will, in fact, not be doing that. I will take Will Fuller purely hoping that he gets signed by a team. Because at this point, I'm going for Hail Marys, right? And that's what that's the whole point of this game. With some of these late round picks you make, sometimes you just got to, toss it up and see what happens. Nicholas Flint says, hey, Andrew, keep 4. Jamar, Dalvin, Najee, Tyreek, AJ Brown, Lamar, Andrews in a regular PPR scoring format. Okay, Nicholas. I'll give you my answer, but what I'll preface beforehand is that there is a potential that I don't have all of the information that is needed per se. Let's give you a hypothetical. Because I don't know what other teams are picking or keeping in your league, it makes it difficult. Because like if, for example, you're playing in a league and everyone is going to keep a quarterback, like literally everyone, let's say 8 of the 12 teams keep a quarterback, maybe I'd feel less likely to, or I'd feel more inclined to keep Lamar because I'm worried, hey, if all of them are already gone and someone's going to take Lamar from me because I don't draft high enough in this specific draft, I might be in trouble, right, in a keeper league. Otherwise, if nobody's keeping quarterbacks, then you don't need to keep Lamar. You could just let him go off into the free agency pool, and if he comes back to you, he comes back to you. But what I'm looking at is immediately Dalvin, Najee Harris, Jamar Chase, of course. Boom, boom, boom. 3. I'll take those 3. I'll keep them. As for what else we're keeping, it's between Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, and Mark Andrews, huh? All right, my pick is up. Do I have a third tight end? No. Do I want a third tight end? Sure. Who do we have available on? Never mind. Everything. I'm not even mad at Mo Ali Cox. I think that there's a potential he could be good, but I mean, like what are we doing? We're reaching at that point. Let's just do this. Never mind. I guess I missed the pick. I got Josh Palmer, dude. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so what you were saying, if we're keeping four. So Jamar Chase for sure, Najee Harris for sure. I mean, those are undoubtedly the guys I want to keep. Dalvin Cook is in an interesting situation. I understand a lot of people are worried about his injury. I don't care. I'm keeping Dalvin Cook. He's a starter running back. Boom. Done. So there's 3. If we're keeping one more, I mean, the fact that there's no Marquise Brown in Baltimore makes me think that Mark Andrews isn't going to slow down from his late season antics last year. I think his momentum I should have taken Sterling Shepard, but anyway, I think he just keeps going. So I kind of want to keep Mark Andrews because, again, I don't know who other teams are keeping. I don't know what kind of tight ends are going to be available on the board, but I typically want to have a stud tight end. So that's probably what I go. 2 running backs, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end. I keep Andrews as well. If I was going to if you had like a 5th option, it would probably be Tyreek Hill. I would keep him over AJ Brown as of right now. Is there any quarterbacks left? Davis Mills. I don't think I'll need a 3rd quarterback. I mean, I'll take one, and I'm okay with Mills because I like him. How many picks are we into this draft? 18th round coming up. Okay, so my final pick will be Davis Mills if possible. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll tag him in queue here. I'll go back here and we'll cut back to the regular live stream, get back to kind of full-fledged focusing on the chat, which I want to do, of course, answering your guys' questions. Let me pop the chat out here, move it down here so I don't have to look up every time. Here it is. Okay, cool. So, what have I missed? Thoughts on Fournette this year? I mean, the fact that they got rid of Ronald Jones, I mean, it only means good things for Leonard Fournette. I think he's a top 12 back. So, do with that as you will. As to where he currently stands, that's something that I'm going to have to determine in the next couple months before full sending on drafts. But I do think he is a top 12 running back. Mainly because, of course, like, I don't care what he does as a running back per se. He's going to get his touches. I don't even care if someone digs into his work. It's what he does as a receiving back that defines his overall fantasy value. The ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, the ability to serve as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers version of James White. You know, we saw how much value James White was given because of how good, or how much Tom Brady wanted to just dump off. Yeah, so I'm pretty confident that Fournette should be fine. Again, the only time that Fournette has ever been bad in fantasy is when he's missed significant time due to injuries or been traded or kind of signed with the team in the offseason. So 2020 was a bad year. 2018 was a bad year. One was due to injury. One was new offense, trying to figure it out and getting injured midseason. Is my draft pick almost up here? Okay, Davis is still available. I've got, 6? Yeah, okay. We'll take that if it ends up happening. If it doesn't, so be it. We'll let it auto pick. Okay. Where did my pop out chat go? Okay. Okay. All right. Mankind says, okay. So that's quite, okay. So that's answering Nick's question. It's a kicker year, says Christopher. I mean, listen, kicker is, I think I've mentioned this to many of you before in the past. I typically look at the kicker position and think to myself, especially if I'm drafting early. Let's say, for example, you draft hypothetically on August 1st. The NFL doesn't kick off until September 8th, the Thursday. If I'm in a situation where I'm sitting there and I draft a month, 5 weeks maybe before the NFL begins, I don't even draft kicker. I don't draft defense. I draft backup running backs just in case somebody in the preseason has a season-ending injury. And you may be thinking to yourself, Andrew, that never happens. Well, of course it does. J.K. Dobbins last year. Obviously, Gus Edwards got injured, but hey, an injury is an injury, to say the very least. We saw DeAndre Swift at the beginning of last season dealing with injury. A lot of people who ended up picking up Jamal Williams, they prospered early on in the season from his overall opportunity. We've seen it in years past. Guys like Spencer Ware in 2017, the year that Kareem Hunt was a rookie. Spencer Ware goes down with an ACL injury in preseason. Kareem Hunt becomes a top 12 overall running back in terms of value. He's launched and finishes the number 4 in that given year. Like, there's so much when you draft earlier on compared to later at kicker that, yeah, I don't even care about kicker to an extent because, you know, as valuable as it is to be like, oh, I have Justin Tucker, there's no guarantee that he's going to end up kicking you 9 points. There isn't. That's just the nature of the beast. Nicholas Flint says, appreciate you, that Andrew, you helped me win a championship last year. Looking forward to watching your videos this upcoming season. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm glad I can help in any way, whether it's one of my videos or live streams. I appreciate it. That's the entire point. I'm just trying to help. That is the main goal. I never try to set you guys up for failure. It's always trying to research to help you guys for a successful 2022 season. Because again, as long as the fantasy football season is 18 weeks, it goes by relatively fast. At least for me, it does, because my gosh, every day pumping out content, I lose my mind a little bit, but fantasy only comes around once a year, and you want to make sure you win your leagues. So I try my best to help you guys. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Michael says, what's the NFC East look like this year? Can you envision my Eagles taking over or the Cowboys or Washington Commanders? When I look at the entire division as a whole, the Cowboys should be the favorite. The Commanders aren't going to do much. The Giants aren't going to do much. These are still teams that are relatively rebuilding to an extent. So it is a Cowboys division, purely. The reason why the Eagles were able to make the playoffs last year, super easy strength of schedule. You go look at the teams that they play against. Jets, Jacksonville, Detroit. I mean, they played against the bottom of the barrel teams. They played well. What a surprise. So I think it's a Cowboys division for now. Bears fans, so much fun being able to draft against you, Andrew. Yeah, listen, what I want to do in the future, which we'll be able to do, is, I mean, we could even do it now, but we need enough people. That's the whole thing. If there were 12 people here that had Underdog and had signed up using promo code Andrew, thumbs up. Appreciate that. We could 100% do a draft with just 12 of us drafting, and I'd be perfectly down with that. I can go make a private lobby and do it. It would be like let me see here. What would it theoretically be? So if I go here, I'm fairly certain I can make a private 3-man lobby, 12 team. Let's see here. So, okay. So yeah, I mean, look, I can make 6-person drafts, 12-person drafts, $10 buy-ins. But yeah, there would just have to be more people, which I obviously want to do. But when the momentum begins to build, when we get to like July, August, September, we'll be able to do more of that because there'll be more people in chat, more people willing to hop in and get it going in that regard. Okay, so let's see here. Mankind said, he said earlier that Christian McCaffrey is less juicy if you only play in one league. If you play in multiple leagues, it's less risk. Yeah, exactly. Just to reiterate, let's say, for example, I only play in one league. I play with my friends, coworkers, whatever the heck, right? I would feel less inclined to select Christian McCaffrey, even if he's the best available player, because I know of his injury history. And I know that if he goes down with an injury, I am in horrible position because I went from having a running back that typically averages 20 fantasy points per week to having to put in his backup and hope that he scores 12. And that kind of a decline could really hurt you in a given year, right? So why not take the guy that's going to give you 19 points in a given week? Because that at least they're going to be in the conversation of not scoring as much, but being in that belt, the remote ballpark and not having as much injury concern. When I play in, I every year, I mean, I think for the last 3 years, have played in 13 different redraft leagues. if in one of the, I mean, let's say for example, if in one of those 13 leagues I have Christian McCaffrey, okay, so be it. I'm okay with that. I like to diversify my portfolios per se, because at least I get a piece of everybody, and I can have fun with that way. Appreciate it, Jacob. Thank you. Old days, it was running game in the 70s and 80s. Simpson, Peyton, Dickerson, off tackle, running backs, last picks. My last picks. Interesting. Okay. Alrighty. So there's 82 of you in here. What the heck happened, huh? 82. That's interesting. That kind of blew up, huh? I appreciate you guys being here. That's awesome. Didn't expect this kind of a turnout on a random Thursday night after not really announcing that I was going to live stream. I do appreciate you guys coming out here, huh? Don't waste your dimes on running backs. That's a fun, yeah, sure. I mean, I wish people in my leagues thought like that. That'd be great. Eric Powell says, Saquon breakout year, question mark? My hope is that the answer is yes. And I want to be more confident in this answer. But at the current moment, there are a lot of questions that are arise when we think about the Giants in general. Danny Dimes, that offense. I mean, that offensive line, I know they've made a couple improvements, but dude, it's still rough. The new offensive coordinator, new head coach, Brian Daboll, hopefully going to turn it around. But there's no guarantee for that. And that's what's always sketchy with Saquon. I don't even know where Saquon went in that last draft. Let me actually see. If I go to results, if I go to NFL, oh, actually, it wouldn't even be results. If I go to drafts, I go to completed. I go to 2022 best ball. Where is it? Okay, here we go. So where the heck? I'm actually curious. View full draft. I can't view it yet. Okay, maybe I'm gonna have to wait a little bit. Okay, no big deal. We'll figure that out later. Let's see here. But yeah, look, as of right now, it's really sketchy because Saquon, his ACL, may never be the same player again. And the offense certainly is not going to be very competitive this year. So that being said, there's always a potential. We've seen running backs in really bad offenses be incredible. Go back to DeAndre Swift last year. Dude is on the Detroit Lions, but is still putting up great numbers. Prior to going out with his season, kind of defining injury in that Thanksgiving Day game against the Chicago Bears. Prior to that, the dude was like the number 7 overall running back in fantasy. Like, he was balling out. So it doesn't matter even if you're associated with a bad offense. It's just a matter of, is he healthy enough? Is he getting enough targets? The receiving game is extremely essential for his overall upside. Saquon went 3.9. I appreciate that. Thank you. What did I miss here? Man, a lot of questions came in. I appreciate you guys sending those questions in, keeping me on my toes. Do you think Bateman can be a wide receiver 1? I'm a Ravens fan. Can he be a wide receiver 1? In what capacity? Because like when I think of wide receiver 1 or that phrase in general, I think fantasy. Fantasy, obviously not. Top 24 wide receiver, he could be. Probably closer to 23, 24, 22 in that range. As for just being a solid like X receiver for the Ravens, he can be. That's why they drafted him in the first round of the 2021 season. He was the number 26 pick for a reason. So he certainly can be the number 1 for the Ravens. As for fantasy upside, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of potential he has. I don't know if he's going to see the kind of target share that Marquise Brown did in his career. I mean, in the last 4 years? 19, 20, 21? 3 years. In the last 3 years, Marquise Brown has, I think, had a target share of like 22% or more every year. That means on 22% of the routes that he ran, he was targeted. So 1 out of every 5 routes, pretty much. I don't know if we'll see that kind of number, but we're hoping. I mean, who else is going to throw the ball to, right? Another question came in here. This is the year Fournette, Dillon, Javonte, and Akers. This will be year of Fournette. Okay, Fournette, listen, I'm all in on that. Javonte Williams, with Melvin Gordon resigning, not as convinced. Certainly going to be potentially a top 15 back. He can do it, especially if that team just scores more touchdowns because of the better quarterback. Certainly could be top 15. Akers, again, I don't know. I mean, the last time we saw Akers throughout the playoffs, man, he looked horrible. 2.5 yards per carry average. Wasn't fully healthy, but now he's going to have an off season to kind of, improve himself, strengthen the Achilles. I don't even know. I mean, like, it's going to be interesting there in LA. And then we have Dillon. AJ Dillon is the 1B. Like, while some people look at the Green Bay backfield and think, oh, they have the number 1 running back and the number 2 running back, it's 1A and 1B, just like the way it is in Denver, 1A and 1B. Dillon's certainly going to be making a lot of noise this season. I agree. Carlito says, how big of a role do you think ETN will have this year? Assuming that James Robinson is not healthy enough to start the season, perhaps he starts on the physically unable to perform list, maybe ends up missing 6 to 10 weeks. Travis Etienne should be upwards of 16 touches a game. 12 carries, 4 catches out of the backfield. These are not things that are out of the realm of possibility, especially in a Doug Peterson offense. We know how Doug Peterson likes to roll his offense. We looked back at the last couple seasons of what he did with the Eagles from 2016 to 2020. They ran the ball a lot. That was their bread and butter. Run the ball a lot, get the ball to the tight end, make plays. That's it. So I think ETN could definitely be in that conversation of being a definite top 18 running back. He needs the opportunity, and he needs James Robinson gone. Roy says Elliott or Saquon. The thing about Elliott is that for as bad as he was last year, he still finished as the number 6 running back in fantasy. Can you imagine that? Elliott he got hurt. We all know it. He was injured. After that Carolina Panthers game, his knee was busted. They didn't really take care of him very well. They should have let him miss games, but he's a tough son of a gun, man. He doesn't want to miss games. So, obviously, fantasy paid for it. That being said, if I had to pick between one of them, I mean, if Saquon doesn't get anybody to impede his backfield opportunity and they want to throw him the ball, like if Saquon is going to guarantee me 45 to 50 catches, I'll take Saquon. But if that's not the case and we're not going to see Daniel Jones passing him the ball, give me Elliott, man. Elliott will catch the ball. Elliott will get goal line opportunities because we know Tony Pollard doesn't score in that offense, whether or not Zeke is injured. What about defense? Pittsburgh? I don't know about Pittsburgh yet. I mean, on paper, they're a great defense. But as for like the best defense in fantasy, I'd pretty confidently say that my number 1 defense is probably Buffalo right now. I know Dallas was incredible last year. They lost a couple players, but they could also be really good once again. The problem with Pittsburgh last year was they had a lot of injuries on defense, and that's what made them not so viable. Bears fan says, in a best ball, I feel like there's too much value. There is much value later on at running back that tends to fall. Yeah, no, I mean, with the amount that wide receiver was just taken, that makes me kind of change my perspective as to how to approach it, kind of, Eric says Saquon will be elite trust. Dude, I'm hoping, man. Listen, I don't like to doubt players. I've always been someone that just wants, if everyone could score 20 points a week, it would make my life an absolute paradise because I would never get a guess wrong, right? I would never say, hey, start Saquon. He plays against the easiest matchup, scores 2 points, fumbles twice. I wouldn't ever have to worry about that. But again, that's just not how it works. There are so many different variables that we can't even take into account, that we just have to wait and see kind of how it transpires. I'm hoping Saquon plays well. I hope everyone plays well. Carlito says, do you believe that Kamara's value has gone up or down with the new additions? I think it's been pretty stable, to be honest. He has been, from my experience, taken from prior drafts, today's draft, in that position of coming off as like the number 7, 8, 9, ninth running back off the board. I don't mind it again when he's given the ball out of the backfield in the receiving game at a premium amount, because that's what he's best at. He's unstoppable. But unfortunately, we're not going to see that because we don't have Drew Brees there. Jameis Winston obviously loves to throw the ball to him, has shown a higher propensity to do so in comparison to other quarterbacks. Simeon, what's his name? Taysom Hill. Goodness, I couldn't find the name to save my life. But I don't think his value has gone down. It's pretty much stayed the same. In my eyes, in comparison to last year, obviously it's gone down. He went from being the number 1 running back in fantasy in 2020 to being, far less, obviously due to injury, but his averages have been decent. He's got to get the ball out of the backfield. He's got to catch the ball 5-6 times a game. Otherwise, we're in trouble. Let's see here. Which rookie tight end do you think has the best season this year? Okay, McBride is the best rookie tight end, but he's on the Arizona Cardinals, so that doesn't really bode well. I look across the entire landscape. I'm trying to think. I honestly think there's a chance that if in fact Rob Gronkowski doesn't play this year, the rookie that they took could be of value. He just has to beat out Cameron Brate. That's it. He beats out Cameron Brate, he's got his starting job there. I think the running back that Denver took out of UCLA, Greg Dulcich. I don't remember. I think that's what his name is. I could be totally wrong, but I know his name is Greg and it starts with a D, his last name. He could be of value as a rookie tight end. It's always possible. Let's see here. What do you think Fournette and Josh Jacobs will finish this year? I mean, in a full PPR, Fournette's a top 12 back. Jacobs probably in that. I mean, especially in a full PPR with Kenyon Drake there. Jacobs is most likely 15 to 18. Probably. Which isn't bad. I mean, honestly, he's going to be good. Josh McDaniels from 2017 to 2021 as the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. No other team gave their running backs the ball more than the New England Patriots. They just give their running backs opportunity for days, whether it's on the ground, through the air. We just have to hope that Kenyon Drake doesn't dig too much into it. I feel like wide receiver is deeper than running back. 100% agree. I can always find a guy with upside at wide receiver in the later rounds. I agree. Bears Akers is very scary at his ADP. I agree. Everybody's making great points today. Kyle P says, you mean there's more wide receivers than running back? LOL, go figure. Okay, yeah, that's what Walter was saying. Okay, yep, you're just talking about him. Isaac says, who's the piece you want in Miami given the ADP? Waddle. Purely. Nobody else. I mean, the only time I'll ever invest in another player there is if somebody falls past their ADP by a wide margin, or Tua is my backup quarterback in fantasy. Otherwise, I have no interest in taking Tyreek Hill that early. I don't want Mike Gesicki on my team. That backfield has Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and Sony Michel now. It's Waddle or it's nothing for me. Let's see here. What about Dawson Knox? Dawson Knox is great, but the issue with Dawson Knox is that last year he caught a touchdown for once every 5 receptions. So catching 9 touchdown passes on, what's the math there? 45 total receptions? I don't know. Did he have that many receptions? I can confirm it. Let me go and look at that real quick. If I'm not mistaken, he probably had more than 45 receptions. Am I bugging? Maybe not. Dawson Knox. What do we have here? Last season, 2020, regular season, had 49 receptions. Okay, so it's actually high. It's a little bit higher than 5. It's like 5.14 or something off the top of my head. In terms of a ratio of receptions to touchdowns. That's a little skewed up. That being said, who else is going to catch the ball there? We have Stephon Diggs. We have Gabriel Davis, the number 1 and 2 pop. Gabriel Davis, just wait, guys. I mean, I love Gabriel Davis like he's my son at this point. And I have no children, and I don't plan to anytime soon. But Gabriel Davis is my baby. When we're talking about sleepers, I know a lot of you have asked, Andrew, mid-round guys, he's probably going higher than he should. Dude, Gabriel, I'm on the Gabriel Davis train. It ain't even close. But anyway, Dawson Knox. Besides Davis, Stephon Diggs, maybe one of these running backs catching the ball to the backfield, running in for a touchdown. Josh Allen is throwing the ball for 4,700 yards this year, probably throwing for 40 touchdowns. Dawson Knox is probably catching the ball in the end zone 8 times this year. The rest of the weeks, okay, you can guarantee, boom, he catches the ball 8 touchdowns, 8 separate games. The other 10 games this year, he's scoring 6 fantasy points. And that's unfortunate. So he's a boom or bust tight end, say the least. But at his ADP, I mean, we're okay with that, right? Thoughts on Debo being a top 10 wide receiver? Very easily could be, but I don't even know if he's playing for them this year, so we'll see. But yeah, he should be easily. I'd even have him higher up, right? To readjust the rankings, right? Because I remember somebody reminded me of Stephon Diggs. Kupp, Jefferson, Chase, Diggs, Adams, Tyreek, Debo. So he's right there. And then after that, the conversation kind of molds into CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, AJ Brown, T. Higgins in no particular order, but those are the guys that are next. Keenan Allen, so on and so forth. Justin Jefferson, number 1 wide receiver overall. I don't mind it. I think Kevin O'Connell, the new head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, former offensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams, he's said it multiple times in different interviews. He wants to use Justin Jefferson like the Rams use Cooper Kupp. Move him everywhere. He doesn't play just outside. He plays in the slot. He plays, as the X, the Y, the Z receiver. Does not matter. The dude will be everywhere, but he's going to command targets. He's going to get better every single year. He's going to dominate. So, yeah, I mean, can he be the number 1 overall wide receiver? Certainly. Does he need more touchdowns to do so? I do believe. I think him getting 1,400 receiving yards is kind of a sure thing. Getting himself 90 plus receptions, sure thing. But getting himself from 8 touchdowns to 14, that's a hard thing to do, especially when Adam Thielen is active and is scoring, 19 touchdowns in the last 24 games, whatever the stat is. I forget it off the top of my head. But it's possible. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. Morano G says, I was the guy that took Kupp 1.01. Congratulations, dude. Honestly, didn't have Herbert going in the first was insane. To be totally honest, I looked at that number 1 pick, saw what you got in the second round, and I was jealous. I'm sitting there thinking, dude, the fact that, just imagine theoretically, right? If you had not taken Kupp there at 1.01, okay, let's say you had gone Jonathan Taylor, the guy that is, renownedly, I guess, consensus, the number 1 overall pick. You could take Taylor number 1. The draft came back. You could have probably still gotten Chubb or Aaron Jones and paired it with a wide receiver there. You could have gotten Taylor. Let's say, for example, you prefer one over the other. You take Chubb and you're like, all right, I want a wide receiver. I'll take Mike Evans. Like, that start in itself is ridiculous. Like, why wouldn't I want the number 1 overall pick in that kind of a scenario? That's crazy. But yeah, congratulations. Good looking draft there. Connor says, I was waiting all year to see you on my recommended again. Connor, subscribe to the channel. You won't have to see me on your recommended. I'll be in the sub box. And anytime I'm streaming or anything like that, if you click the bell notification button, you'll be notified. It'll be in the top right little, ping will pop up and you'll know. But I appreciate you guys being here, supporting the channel. We're just answering questions. If you have any questions, let me know. The Broncos tight end, yeah, let me, I think I mentioned, what was his name? Greg Dulcich or something? I don't know. He's out of UCLA, if I'm not mistaken. He was like a 4th round pick, 3rd round pick. I think he could be a decent rookie tight end takes over. Because Albert Ekwebunam, he's okay. He's got a lot of physical traits that are great, but hasn't really done much because, of course, he played behind Fant. But maybe takes the next step this year. All right, Maury says, Andrew, I was wondering what you think about Olave and Michael Thomas. I think Winston is gonna ball, bro. He has a great spirit and a cannon. Yeah, listen, Jameis Winston is like happy-go-lucky, right? He's very carefree. He just wants to have fun. And I love that. The whole thing is, what Jameis are we gonna get? I would love to get 2019 Jameis back. I would love that. I want to see Jameis throw the ball 30 times to the opposing team and 30 times to his team for touchdowns. Because Jameis Winston, when he's unleashed, 5,100 yards, 30 touchdowns, I don't care if you throw 30 picks. You're not going to be my starting quarterback. But giving value to receivers, whether it be Chris Olave out of Ohio State, the rookie wide receiver that was drafted, what was it, like 13th overall, 14th overall? Michael Thomas, a guy that holds the record in NFL history for most receptions in a season. Give him value. Boom, we're back into the conversation of being a wide receiver one. And then, of course, throwing the ball to Alvin Kamara. Dude, just dump it off to him. He's going to get the job done. There's potential. I just don't know what kind of offense they want to run. The offensive coordinator is the same guy. The only difference is that there's no Sean Payton. So whoever, I totally forget the name of who the offensive coordinator is in New Orleans. I'm sure you can go ahead and give me that name, Maury, but he's the same. So they're going to run the exact same scheme. Maybe they'll change a couple things up, but in terms of the archetype of the offense, in terms of the schemes, the way that they want to win games offensively, it's going to be identical to what they did last year and in the years past. So there's potential. I hope it's the unleashed version of Jameis, not the guy that throws 14 touchdowns in 9 games. I can't afford that, especially for the wide receivers there. Unless you're playing in a full PPR, if Thomas isn't scoring touchdowns, man, we're in trouble. Okay, next question. Should I trust Christian McCaffrey this year? Bussin'. Here's my idea, okay? This is what I mentioned before, and I'll reiterate it. If you play in one league, and that's it, one league with all your friends, and you have the opportunity to take Christian McCaffrey, relatively high risk. I would say that is a resounding kind of opinion. If we're in a situation where you only play in one league and you're like, listen, I could take McCaffrey or I could take Eckler and be fine with it and not have to worry about the potential of an injury. Maybe just go Eckler there because hey, maybe just maybe Christian McCaffrey does it again. And for a third season in a row, he misses 8+ games and he screws over my fantasy team. If you play in 10 leagues and you're trying to just, pick the best available player in all of them, I think Christian McCaffrey has a very viable argument for being the number 2 running back. There are very few running backs in fantasy that you can find. Really, there are very few in maybe the last 10 years that I can remember off the top of my head. Running backs that are going to be able to score 20 fantasy points for you while scoring 0 touchdowns in that exact same week. Christian McCaffrey is special because of how well he is, utilized in the receiving game and how much value you can get just primarily off of that. He's not a guy that is going to, rush for 200 yards, but he's going to get himself 7 catches for 70. And he can accompany that with whatever he does on the ground and still score 19, 20+ points without scoring a touchdown. That is rare company. So as long as he stays healthy, man, the argument's there. But it's tough. It's tough to trust him. And also, when you draft McCaffrey, it's just like drafting Dalvin Cook. When you draft McCaffrey, when you draft Dalvin Cook, at round 9 or 10, you probably have to pick up Alexander Mattison. You probably have to pick up Donta Foreman, because if you miss out on those 2 guys, that backfield could end up going the wrong way, and your season may be going in the wrong way if you miss out on that handcuff value. But I guess it depends on when people are running after those handcuffs in respective drafts. I remember like in years past, people would go, Zeke in the first round and Pollard in the 9th or 11th, like in that range. Just in case kind of thing. Okay, coming back into this chat, let's see here. What quarterback you think benefits the most from new wide receivers? Is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, who else has... I think Allen Robinson going to the Rams certainly helps. But again, he had Odell last year. Matthew Stafford did. Allen Robinson, talent-wise, on the same level, maybe less. But I think Jalen Hurts probably benefits the most in terms of adding wide receiver talent to the team. Then it's Derek Carr right thereafter. Let's see here. I mean, mainly because Derek Carr has proven that he could be a solid like number 12 quarterback in fantasy, like number 12 to 14. Now that you add his former college roommate, his best friend into that offense, the best wide receiver in football by many people's opinion, you got yourself a conversation there where Derek Carr maybe takes that next step. Speaking of Jalen Hurts, how do you feel about Jalen Hurts? Says Connor. I feel pretty good about him. I think he has the potential of being a top 6 quarterback in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. Of course, a lot of the touchdowns that Jalen Hurts scored last year were QB sneaks. If those end up being plays where they just hand it off to Miles Sanders and we start seeing -6, -6, -6 to his fantasy point totals, we may be in a little bit of trouble. But my hope is that because I haven't looked at their schedule yet. If it is a little bit more difficult than it was last year, that means we're going to see them throwing the ball way more later in the game. They're not going to be able to just rest on their laurels and run. They're going to throw the ball. Of course, he has a brand new shiny car in the driveway. His name is AJ Brown. They're supposed to be best friends or something like that, I guess. That's even better. So Jalen Hurts gets himself a number 1 wide receiver, gets himself some improvements elsewhere, specifically some offensive line, health pieces coming back. We have a situation here where he could be a top 6 quarterback in fantasy. We just have to hope that they throw the ball more, because if he throws more, the scrambling is going to be even more crazy than it was late last season. Connor says, will James Conner repeat his elite season? I mean, they didn't really address running back. They did draft a guy out of USC. Not too convinced that he's going to be able to impede. He could serve as this season's Chase Edmonds, but James Conner should have the backfield to himself. James Conner, I know he has dealt with a lot of injuries in his career, but it's pretty apparent when he's healthy and he's active and he's given 15, 20 touches, the dude is a beast. The fact that this team is so successful offensively that they can go ahead and run the ball as much as they have in the red zone, the fact that they have the always looming threat of Kyler Murray keeping on a potential read option, that backside defensive end can't come crashing down the line of scrimmage in order to make that play because he has to, respect the fact that Kyler can keep the ball and pull it. There's a lot of potential there for James Conner to once again repeat as a top 12 running back. I think that he's in the conversation. I mean, if I had to rank running backs right now, he'd probably be there, but probably in the lower half. Danny says, if I could get him at running back, I'd take Eckler. Good on the RPO. If I could, okay, I don't know what context that was in, but either way, Eckler's a beast. We all know that. Varun says, Tyreek or Waddle? Who do you think would be the better fantasy player in Miami offense? I mean, I truly do think it's going to be Tyreek Hill. He will have scored more points at the end of the year. But again, via ADP, the value, I mean, what is it? Tyreek Hill early second or Jalen Waddle mid third? Kind of that's the ADPs right now, right? I guess it depends on where you pick. Because based on your first pick overall, if you go wide receiver, let's say you take Cooper Kupp in the first round. Let's say you take him at 1.6. Cooper Kupp falls to you. You take him at 1.6. In the second round, if you do take another wide receiver, for example, Tyreek Hill, if available, you're going to have to really hope that your third round running back pans out. Now, you could go ahead and not take that risk, and you take, a second round running back of the variety of potentially Leonard Fournette, and then you can go ahead, or Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, and then go ahead and pair them up with Jalen Waddle, which could be theoretically safer. But again, it just depends who that third round running back is and whether or not they can pan out to be of value, Mike Evans or T. Higgins? Right now, I have Mike Evans slightly ahead of T. Higgins. I still think they're both top 12. I would probably, off the top of my head, have Mike Evans as like a number 9 or 10 ranked wide receiver and Higgins at like number 11, something like that. Both are going to be incredible, to say the least. Saints offensive coordinators, Pete Carmichael. Thank you very much, Connor. Appreciate that. Um, which rookie wide receivers do you prefer to draft? I mean, okay, let's think about their opportunity, right? Um, Garrett Wilson went to the Jets. I have no interest there because I don't trust Zach Wilson. Then we have Jameson Williams going to Detroit. Jameson Williams may not even start the season on the team healthy. He may be on the physically unable to perform list. You could get him later, but again, do we trust Jared Goff? That's the question. Then we have ourselves Chris Olave, probably the best one of the group, mainly because the Saints have desperately needed a number 2 wide receiver. And when Michael Thomas on the other side of the field is pulling double coverage and not running slant routes, maybe, just maybe, Chris Olave could pop up and have himself some value. So outside of those 3, I mean, I don't know if Rodgers can really support a rookie wide receiver in Watson. I don't think it's going to happen. So probably Olave at this point is my favorite of the bunch. I know there's a lot of other guys. Don't worry. I know there's a lot of other ones, but yeah, we're just going to keep moving. Top 5 defenses for fantasy for right. I mean, dude, again, there's a lot of research that needs to be done that will be done this offseason regarding that. But for now, I'm pretty safe to say Buffalo, Dallas, the Rams. Who else is like nuts on defense always? I think the Chargers could be a low-key one. But in terms of top 5, yeah, it's going to be like Rams, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, that kind of vibe. But Pittsburgh, I don't know, man. I just don't know yet because I don't know who their quarterback is, and their quarterback could really hurt their defense with bad field positioning. I got Jalen Hurts as my second quarterback. I told everyone he would outshine lame Tua in the NFL. Moreno G says, okay, so that's to Danny Drew. Me What says, which KC wide receiver leads in yards for them this year? How do you see the top 3 shaking out this season? How do you see their top 3? Okay, so in terms of KC's top wide receiver, it's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, undoubtedly, I think it'll be Juju. In terms of wide receiver, obviously their leading receiver is going to, like, in terms of just catching the ball, is going to be Kelsey, but he's not a wide receiver, right? So as much as we'd like him to be. So at this point, it'll be Juju, probably follow with MVS, then, Mecole Hardman. I don't know if Mecole Hardman is at the position to where he can be the number 2 on that team. He doesn't strike me as someone that could be, but hey, you never know. We'll see what the offseason brings. We'll see what OTAs brings, preseason snaps. Obviously, that'll be a huge tell as to where they're going to go there. But Juju should be the leading receiver there because he's the most talented by far out of MVS, Mecole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, that group of guys. I know there's Sky Moore. I left him out because I'm still in the position of trying to figure out how they're going to use him. So I'm just waiting. Got to do my research, and I'll, of course, have that answer in coming months here. Cooper Kupp always goes at 1.02 or 1.03 in best balls, unfortunately. Yeah, because he's just such a guarantee for success. Thoughts on Drake London? Love the player. Hate the position that he's in. Marcus Mariota. I said Marquise. Marcus Mariota is not the best. So unfortunately, he may be in a little bit of trouble there. And he may be pulling some pretty heavy coverage because he's really the only wide receiver there. But he should have over 120 targets. That is of my opinion. I think he should probably have 120 targets. I think Kyle Pitts will probably see 120 targets. I think Cordero Patterson probably gets like 60, 70 targets. Outside of throwing them the ball, there's no one else to throw the ball to, right? Also, thanks for sniping Goddard for me. Yeah, dude, Goddard is from all the research I've done this offseason, I don't think besides Cole Kmet, Goddard is the other tight end this last season that was screwed out of touchdowns more than anybody else at the tight end position. When I went and I watched back their entire year, there were so many plays where Goddard and Cole Kmet literally were targeted in the red zone. They weren't targeted in the end zone, but they were targeted like let's say for the example, they had the ball on the 12-yard line. The dude runs like a drag route across the formation, catches the ball, goes down, and is 1 yard short 4 different times this last season. Could have had himself a touchdown. We look at Dallas Goedert. He literally scored 0 touchdowns this last year. Very seldom do you see a tight end. I mean, I went back to like 2010 and I looked at the entire breakdown. There's only been like 1 or 2 tight ends that have ever done that, where they're like top 12 in fantasy numbers, or in the targets that he saw. What was it, 90 targets, and you score 0 touchdowns? Very rare. So Goddard should see a huge uptick this year. That's why I'm so confident in him. MQN Caesar says Texans wins over 4.5. Okay, let's look at their schedule real quick. I will be ending stream soon. Again, the fact there are 70 of you in here, and it's 10 p.m. PST, which would of course make it 1 a.m. EST. That's awesome. I appreciate you guys spending your time here today, asking questions, supporting the channel. Again, fantasy football content will get to a more regular basis as we get closer to the season. Just doing my due diligence and improving all aspects of the channel, whether it is graphics, research, and some of the content ideas that I have coming up that are gonna be exciting, gonna be hopefully more entertaining, and keep the experience at an all-time high. Anyway, let's look at the Texans real quick. Texans schedule 2022. What do we got here? All right, so they start off playing. I don't care about the preseason. No, this is the regular season, right? Two times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, it's 18 games. So there's no preseason. These are all regular season games. They start with the 49ers. So here we go. 49ers, they lose. Colts, they lose. Denver, they lose. Chicago, that's a win. Chargers, they lose. Jacksonville, that's a toss-up. So that's maybe 2. That's a loss. That's a loss. That's a loss. That's maybe. So that's 3, 4 maybe. Okay, that's loss. Okay, it is very possible, because I have seen teams like, let's say for example, the Jets last year. The Jets beat the Bengals. The Jets beat the Titans last year. Those are 2 of the best AFC teams, right? Bad teams, like overarching in terms of not having the best talent, can be good on Sundays. Any given Sunday. That's why we play the game. That's why we don't just hand the Buffalo Bills the championship this year. They got to go earn it every Sunday until February. That being said, when I look at that schedule, I think it's possible. They play against the Giants, the Washington Commanders. They have 2 games against the Jaguars. They have, that's 4 games that they could potentially win. Very easily they could win. I don't know how good the Jaguars are going to be this year. They're going to be significantly improved compared to, the Urban Meyer tenure there. But there's 4 games there that are up for grabs. They just have to win 1 more game against the other 13 that they have. I think 4.5 could be a sneaky over there. Miguel says, what to do with Claypool? I think Claypool is a budget version of DK Metcalf. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. The quarterback position there is unappealing. It is something that I would rather avoid. So, with that being said, we get into a position where we're talking about receivers that certainly depend on getting themselves touchdowns. And, if their offenses aren't going to be at that level, he's a guy that you can't trust on a weekly basis. Now, in a best ball league, by all means, if he scores a touchdown, he's the best receiver on that team in a given week, it automatically starts him, because it auto sets your lineups based on who performed the best in that given week. But in a regular 17, 18 game season here, or 18-week season, I'd rather just avoid Claypool, considering we have Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett as our options. But I could be wrong. You never know. Kenny Pickett may be the next coming of Jesus Christ for all we know, and he's just killing it out there. We don't know. But for now, it's a little sketchy. Miguel also says, what is a buy low quarterback I need in a super flex league? Ooh, that's a good question. So who is a quarterback that you can get as your number 2? That's a buy low. Okay. Let me go and let's pull up something here. Let's go ahead. Okay, so let's look at the entire board here of quarterbacks. So Atlanta doesn't have one. Carolina doesn't have one. Justin Fields is sketchy because the receivers around him are not good. Jared Goff's not reliable enough. Davis Mills is, as of right now, not reliable enough, but could be. Trevor Lawrence is kind of a sketch bag. Okay, so this is my opinion. I think a lot of people, and I'm going to give you like 2 or 3 options here, okay? Because I do think that if you're able to get Kirk Cousins as your number 2 quarterback, that is just unbelievable. If you're able to get Derek Carr as your number 2 quarterback, that's great. Those are the guys you want. Obviously, in a super flex league, it is going to cost you to get those guys because some teams may avoid taking an early quarterback and take those guys as their number 1s. But if you're in a position where you're like, I'm just going to wait for a quarterback and just hope for the best, it really has to be Matt Ryan, Tua, or hoping that Ryan Tannehill turns it around. Those are the 3 guys as of right now. But for right now, if you can get, theoretically, Kirk Cousins as your number 2 quarterback and Derek Carr, or Derek Carr as your number 2 quarterback, and let's say, for example, your number 1 is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, one of those guys, Tom Brady. If you compare him with Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Trey Lance, it's going to cost you, but it's going to be tough. Aaron in the chat says Kirk Cousins top 15 every year. Dude, the guy he's great. He will throw 4,000 plus yards and 30 plus touchdowns. And he's only getting better because that offense is only getting better. They get a new offensive coordinator. It is a guy that used to be his quarterback's coach in Washington. They have a great relationship. There's a reason why they're keeping Kirk Cousins there. A lot of upside. All right, a couple more questions here before we end today's stream. I have a great one, Andrew. Was fun drafting in the best ball draft. No problem. Appreciate you coming out. Antonio says Javonte Williams or Melvin Gordon III. Great question. Javonte Williams was prophesized to be the next RB1 of the future. A guy that could have been in the top 5 running back conversation going into 2022, but unfortunately they signed Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon, in the last, I want to say 6 consecutive years, maybe 5 consecutive years, just to be safe, has eclipsed 8 total touchdowns and 1,100 all-purpose yards every year. The dude gets hurt, sure, but in Denver has really only missed 1 game in the last 2 seasons. So that's 31 out of, the potential 30. That's actually not 31. It's 32 out of the potential 33 games. So Melvin Gordon has stayed relatively healthy. Melvin Gordon at his ADP is a little bit more enticing than where Javonte sits. So again, I think they may split it down the middle again. Again, this is Nathaniel Hackett coming from the Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator there. The way that they were using that A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones combo late in the season, obviously because of the MCL injury that Aaron Jones sustained, that made a huge difference. But by the looks of it, it's going to be a 2-headed monster there. So I wouldn't mind the ADP of Melvin Gordon right now as a flex option, a guy that you can play every week, or have him as your best guy coming off the bench for bye weeks or respective injuries that may take place. Danny Drew says first game of the season is Thursday Night Football, Bills versus the Rams, the defending champs. Prediction for the Super Bowl forecast. I have no clue right now. We'll get there when we get there. I'm a Rams fan. I'm just glad we won this last year. Goodness gracious, was that a nerve-wracking experience. Odds that Danny Drew is a bot? No, he's not a bot. He's just very excited because those emojis are getting crazy. David Fast, how you doing? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Brandon Bond says, do you pay attention to bye weeks in best ball or just make the best team that you can? No, in best ball, you don't have to, because though it does make sense to do so, now that I'm thinking about it, you might, might make sense to do so. Yeah, that was probably an oversight. That was a definite oversight, because I thought, it depends, right? Because the league goes 14 weeks, and it's just purely based. Okay, so here's the thing. In the best ball leagues, no, it doesn't matter. It could matter, but it doesn't. So I'll explain to you why. If, for example, you have 2 quarterbacks on the same bye week, it probably doesn't benefit you as much. But if you're only going to miss 1 week of having both these quarterbacks on the same bye, I'd just rather have the better quarterbacks overall, because ultimately, best ball is determined by which team score the most points. It's not a head-to-head matchup. It's literally which teams of the 12 are scoring the most points overall, and that will kind of give you your placement at the end of the year. So if in week 9, Tom Brady and Jalen Hurts are both on a bye week, I don't know, this is a hypothetical. I don't even know when their bye weeks are. If they're both on a bye week and I missed out on 20 points that week, that's fine. As long as the rest of the weeks they're just going off and doing their job, I should be able to be just fine without him. But again, that's why you draft a third quarterback to avoid that. Oversight by me. What a guy Chris says, drafting Russ. He's feasting week 1 against Seattle. I saw that. That's exciting. That's definitely exciting. Jacob said, should we avoid Derrick Henry in our drafts? I don't think so. I don't avoid him. I'm not afraid of it. Listen, if Derrick Henry had a season-ending ACL or Achilles injury last year, I would be like, dude, I'm scared. He's 28 years old. This is a guy that has had 400 touches in 3 consecutive years. His body must be wearing down. That's just not the case. He's not slowing down. He's getting better, and he broke his foot. All right, he broke his foot. Who could have guessed that? It's not a, he didn't need a cadaver's ACL to be injected into his leg for him to get it going now. He's going to be at his best. What we saw last year for him, I know they ran him into the ground early, but if anybody could take that kind of punishment and carry the ball 30 times a week, it's Derrick Henry. Hey, David, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Hot take squad, top 3 fantasy running backs. I mean, top 3 fantasy running backs as of right now. I don't think it's a hot take in any regard. It's Taylor, McCaffrey, and Henry. That is the case. All right. So we've been streaming here for about 2 hours and 10 minutes. I do greatly appreciate you guys being here, supporting the channel, asking questions, and of course, being active in the community. This is where we're going to call it. I do appreciate, of course, you guys spending your time here today, doing what you guys do, talking fantasy with me, keeping my brain active in the fantasy. I'm always doing fantasy research anyway, so I'm always active in that regard, but either way. Couple reminders before we end today's video or stream. Underdog Fantasy, if you guys haven't checked them out and you are looking to do so, go down to the description of the video, click on that link, and use promo code Andrew today. If and when you do so, Underdog Fantasy is willing to match up to $100 of your first deposit. Again, that's using promo code Andrew, ANDREW. If you go ahead and deposit $100, they'll match $100 and get you set it up with $200 to begin, or you can deposit $20 and go ahead and set it up and get yourself a deposit match of $20. Again, the current contest that is the most popular right now, like you saw on screen, is Best Ball, and it is the Best Ball Mania 3. It's pretty much a draft. There's no setting of lineups. You draft the team, and it'll play itself out, and based on how you do in terms of total points scored by the end of the season, it's going to get you, potentially into a giant prize pool conversation. So again, check out Best Ball Mania 3. Thank you guys for watching. I enjoyed today's stream. And of course, we will try to do this more often and keep you guys in the loop. Chris says, Saquon is that is a bold statement. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all. And until next time, I'm going to go ahead and, man, it's lagging. Of course, the internet starts to lag as soon as we're about to end. Anyway, I'll go ahead and leave you guys with the outro song. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys. Peace.